Parasites are something that I think we all need to be aware of and take into consideration about how to approach them. Kim Rogers, also known as the Worm Queen, is back on the Sowing Prosperity podcast to take another deep dive as we also look into mold exposure, and what all of these negative health consequences of not paying attention to this topic. Kim, I'm so glad that we're visiting again. The first interview we did was basically a masterclass on parasites and all the different ways of addressing that and things to look for and on and on. So I had been doing a whole lot, right? Like a lot. And I didn't think there was absolutely any way that I had parasites. So you'd sent me a couple kits and I did it. And about 4 days into it, I felt like I had the flu, right? I will be honest, I didn't follow your instructions because I didn't think there was any way that I had parasites. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm either going to die in this, hot coffee bath that you had the Fulvic kit, or I'm just going to go to bed and die. I don't know. Something's going to happen. So I got in there, and about 20 minutes in, I started seeing things float. I'm like, what is that? And so that's when I took out the phone, I took pictures, looked at that, sent it to you, and you said, OMG, those are pinworms. I'm like, what? You're like, take the charcoal. So anyways, that was something that was very, very eye-opening for me, that I actually had parasitics that you could see with the naked eye. Yeah. And I had been doing fenbendazole, diatomaceous earth, ivermectin, like doing everything and didn't think. So your kit is absolutely incredible on top of that. So let's get into a little bit of that kit system. Why would I still have parasites being on pharmaceutical grade anti-wormers, right? Mm-hmm. And the diatomaceous earth, everything I've been doing, and the kit that you have created would knock some of these dudes out.
Well, thanks. It's a great kit, man, because I've done all of that as well as herbs. So the same thing kind of happened to me as well. And so that's where I started to critique the kit a little bit and added different elements that the synthetics didn't cover. So there's a few different ways it can be explained. The first one is the anatomy and physiology of having parasites, heavy metals, candida in your body. So they're weighted down by heavy metals. So you really need to do a heavy metal detox while you're doing those, because they're weighted down with the heavy metals. You can remove the floaters. Basically, if you think about your body as like liquid and they're like floating around, those were gone from the synthetics, but then the other ones were weighted down by heavy metals. And so when you bring in Metal Flush in our kit, it releases the heavy metals, which then releases probably the ones that are holding the eggs and like continuing to rebirth, right? So You're releasing them all at once, and you're creating like a shock and awe in your body. So that's kind of where I realized I was doing all the things and I was still having parasites come out, physical worms coming out. And I was like, well, why? And when I added in a heavy metal detox with my parasite cleansing, it was a game changer for me. And I really started to heal versus just getting rid of worms. And so that's the anatomy and physiology side of it. If you look at it like a frequency, because all of these ailments have their own frequency. So what I did was I brought in frequencies that are going to shatter the ailment. So like when a opera singer sings and she breaks the glass, it's because her voice got to the same frequency as the glass. So it's shattered. So if you bring in the herbs that will actually shatter those frequencies and the ailments, you have a whole new game plan going on when you're trying to self-heal. When you're taking synthetics like ivermectin, menbendazole, fenbendazole, it's just targeting those specific frequencies. It's not targeting the overall anti-parasitic activity or the parasitic activity going into your body. It's actually just targeting what those frequencies are. So physical worms, not heavy metals, not parasites. There's a difference between nematodes, which are physical worms like pinworms, flatworm, roundworm, tapeworm, and parasites, which are Giardia, Defragiles, and crypto, which is what I had. So you have to go in and target each one of those. And basically Big P realized that, and that's how they were able to synthetically drive medications like they do.
Goodness. Well,
and then when you're doing ivermectin or fenbendazole, if you're not taking a binder with them, then they're just kind of laying out some eggs while they're on their way out, and the toxins are still being released and still in there. So you're trying to have it as a whole system, you know?
Right. Let's go into a little bit about like what a binder is. And this was the reason that I felt so bad, because I wasn't following the directions. I was not taking a binder. I'm very familiar with them. Like I just naively thought, well, I don't have parasites. I'm just going to do the kit and experience it. So what is a binder, and why is that such an important aspect of that?
Well, for us, cinnamon is our binder. It's Ceylon cinnamon and coconut activated charcoal, and they're negatively charged that draw in the positive charge of the ailment. So it's basically when you're getting rid of the toxins, when you're dropping eggs, you're dropping the heavy metals, it's helping bind that together and come out of your body in a better fashion. And so it can go in and find these charges that are not normal for our bodies and help pull them out. And that's what the binder does. It can make you very sick, and you won't get as good of a cleanse if you're not binding. You're missing some things. It's a full element that you have to do. That's why we did the kit, because you have to do all of these things. You know, like it's not just one. You've got, when you're releasing candida, you've got to bind that candida to move that candida out. So it's a negatively charged herb that goes in and pulls out the positively charged element.
Let's go a little bit into some of the common things that we might see with somebody that has issues with the parasite. And I think maybe parasites are such a broad umbrella. I think a lot of times we think of the things we can see with the naked eye, right? But there's a lot more to it. And so you might not even see them when they pass. But things like edema or fatigue, brain fog, just all kinds of things. But go into a little bit. What are some of the most common things you've seen if you're dealing with some? I think we all have a parasite load, but kind of the most common ways that it manifests.
Teeth grinding is a big one, because your body is trying to tell you a stressor that's happening in your lymphatic system. Breakouts. I'm actually in a mini cleanse and I have breakouts, which I know they're trying to escape. So I'm binding because there is some issues that are going on with my skin. Definitely gut issues as far as like IBS, IBD. Usually the brain fog is real bad with people that have parasites and mold. And you don't always see them. Like, unless you're really getting in there and digging, or you're really infested, you should always focus on how these herbs are helping your symptoms. So if all of a sudden you had eczema and you do the Parafy kit and 10 days in your eczema is gone, well, was it really eczema, or was it a die-off or a cycle, or your body telling you something's wrong? And that's the only way that this temple can tell you what's going on, is by showing you. So that really, there's a lot of them, like there's a list of them that could be, but you know, the top 5 are probably those, just because it's the most common that we realize. The grinding of the teeth is really a big one that I see in, like, especially kids that have pinworms.
So what about bedwetting? Is there any correlation of bedwetting and parasites?
Bedwetting and parasites is big, but really bedwetting with mold is kind of a bigger one. Yeah, but both of them, both of them really. Yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating, because you know, parents, we all deal with that in one form or another. Some kids are worse than others about having that. But on the way down here, I called one of my dear friends, Dr. Petra, and she after the first interview that we did, started using your kit and has fallen in love with it and started recommending that to her patients. And she said that what she has noticed is even outside of the parasite aspect, the digestion help and the more regular bowel movements have been game changers for her patients. And I said, well, what do you attribute that to? She said, Kim has just put together an amazing kit. So can you go into that with the digestive aid part of it, even outside of the parasites?
Well, that just made me tear up. That's amazing.
She is absolutely an incredible practitioner and been able to help people and put things together in a really powerful way. And for her to say that about this kit, it's not lip service.
Well, who would have thought that this woman that had worms could do all of these things because of just trying to heal my body? I mean, it's just wild some days when I look back and I think, oh my God, well, I've been doing this for 3 years every day. I know we're going on our 3rd year. It's wild that it's been an amazing 3 years. So when I designed it, I also had a hard time pooping. I hadn't really pooped in a month. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. I think we talked about that when we were on our last podcast together. And I needed to find a reason on how my colon could help. Like, it was so inflamed that it was causing me to not poop. So I sat down and I looked at what herb would help the inflammation in my body, but also help the inflammation in my colon. And so I started to research like Oregon grapefruit, which is also an anti-parasitic. And when you pair it with wormwood, you just create this like fire kit that allows you to have your inflammation goes down and you can actually like heal. And I just went in and I looked at ways that I could help myself go to the bathroom. That was really a big one for me. And so that's how that started with what she said, which is, going to the bathroom regularly is so important, at least a good once a day.
Yeah. And so is this more going to be contributed to the parasite aspect or the sustain? What part is having that impact?
Sustain has the most impact when it comes to the bowels and helping calm it down. Oregon grapefruit and then usnea kind of goes in and like gets rid of the bacteria and viruses that are being dropped while you're deworming. It's also Mother Nature's doxycycline. So a lot of people that have Lyme, like myself, do super good on it. I take it every morning because I do so well. It helps just calm the issues that Lyme can come up with, like mental health issues, as well as feeling the movement, the spirochetal move in and out of your muscle. And so it just really helps calm Lyme down.
Yeah, I think Lyme's probably a bigger deal than most people give credence to. And let's go into mold then, because I think that's another massive issue. Because I first became aware early on when Lander was diagnosed with cancer and was trying to just wrap my head around everything. Dave Asprey was huge on mold, and he has the moldymovie.com and all these things that going on, and start seeing these different things. And so I have seen how teeth grinding, and now you've mentioned the bedwetting and the fatigue, a lot of the same symptoms that we see with parasites are more can be contributed to mold, especially in the southern U.S., where we are, Florida, Arkansas, Georgia. And so what are you seeing on the front of mold? How are we coming in contact with mold, and what is that protocol that you've seen that is effective in overcoming mold exposure?
Well, when you have parasites, they're holding the spores, and spores colonate in your body, just like when you see it on the wall, it's growing. That's what it's doing in your body. And it's causing havoc, pushing the healthy out of the way in order to build the colonization of the mold. So I think people just think that there's just mold spores floating around in your body. That's true, but they're also colonizing in certain parts. They're building themselves, building a home, which then that home houses parasites as well. So they really do feed off of each other and Lyme. So when I had parasites, mold, and now I have Lyme. and I have chronic Lyme. So it's not as if I just got Lyme. The parasites or the mold could have been harboring the Lyme, so I didn't know that I had it. And so if you look at it this is like a house, right? This is your house. And just like in your physical world, you can see the mold growing. That's what it's doing in your body. It's the same thing. And we as chronically ill people, which I'm chronically healing, I'm not chronically ill anymore, but people that are chronically healing actually have such a lower immune system that they're not able to push it out of their cells, which weakens the mitochondria, which then doesn't allow you to have energy and move your body. That's the whole thing, is when you're so depleted, you don't move your body, and moving your body keeps it active and keeps the cells going. But we don't do that as chronically healing people. So you have to come in and help with herbs. You have to come in and help with other ways to get that moving. So that's what I figured out when I found out I had Aspergillus niger poisoning, which is what I found out I had in 22, which I was living in it and didn't know it in our travel trailer while we were building our dream log home. I had no idea. So breathing it in on a daily basis just really crippled me. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I had terrible skin. My eyes started to swell shut. So my body was trying to tell me there's something wrong with you. But my mind, because the mold controls you, was like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Because it really is controlling. If you think about fungi with mushrooms, how you can take the active mushroom and turn around and go, oh, like I'm thinking, and like it keeps you inside. That's what mold does to you too, just not in like an educational gaining knowledge about yourself type of way like active mushrooms do. It's really kind of the same type of concept.
Goodness. Well,
and the reason for the bedwetting, Logan, the reason for the bedwetting is because the body is trying to get rid of the spores. So if you're up all night long peeing, which is what was happening with my husband and me, we just thought we were getting older, and that's what happens at night is you're up all night peeing. It's your body telling you that you've got some spores in there that it's trying to relieve. Like it's trying to get rid of the spores. Your body is telling you what's wrong, but we're just not knowledgeable enough to know to listen to it in that sense. So as soon as I started doing mold cleansing, I don't pee all night long anymore. I maybe get up once a night, maybe if I drink a lot before I went to bed.
Wow. And I want to clarify something that I said earlier, that it's a Southern thing. I think that it's everywhere thing, right? It's based off of humidity and being enclosed that we are now. But I think that there may be a higher propensity of maybe like Florida or, more tropical to maybe have more exposure. But I think we all need to pay attention to it.
I think the biggest issue about it, though, is that the way they build houses. The way they build houses, they leave it out, and then they're required to have a blow test. And that means that you have to not have, it's so sealed tight in the building world, because we're builders. My husband and I are builders. In the building world, they're required to have the house airtight. It's called a blow test. And they go in and nothing should escape. Well, that's a problem. When nothing can escape from the house, you have no circulation and things will grow. You have one water leak. We had a leaky toilet in our new log home, but we had put BoraCare down to stop any mold growth. And we found out like 3 weeks after, because we're not living there right now, that there was a leak. And because we put the BoraCare down, it stopped it. But if not, it would have grown. And we would have never known because it was under the flooring. We had to rip everything apart. And we found the water leak. If you think about how easy within 24 hours mold grows. So it can be in our walls, it's in our wood, it's under our flooring. It's so easy for it to grow. And without the knowledge of, doing testing with your air in your house, there's no way that you're ever going to know that you have mold. It could be a brand new house. I'm working with someone right now who literally just moved in 6 months ago and has terrible mold poisoning. And she just moved into this new house. It's because they left it out in the rain while they were building it. And then they closed it up immediately, creating condensation behind the drywall.
So what are some solutions? Like, I mean, that's absolutely terrifying, Kim. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is obviously you got to get to the root cause of it, but in the
Hmm.
meantime, is this where the air purifiers, there are certain
Yeah.
ones that work better? What do we do? And then obviously the mold kits are something I think that everybody should do probably periodically at least.
Hmm. There is companies that you can test your air. Gotmold.com is a really great company. He grew up in mold. It made him really sick and he found out. So he created a company. It's like a super easy test. They send you this machine. You put a filter in it. Let it sit in a room for 5 minutes, and then you send the filter back to them. And then they test it in a lab, and then they tell you all of the different possible molds that you have in your house. They have you do a baseline. They put it outside. You put it outside first just to see the air, and then you bring it in, and then they can test against each other. It's not expensive. It's a couple $100s. We do it 2 to 3 times a year in our log home because we live in a very moldy environment outside of the rainforest in Washington. So we just make sure that we test everything just because it's important to continue to keep your environment safe. We also use air doctors everywhere in both our apartment as well as our log home. They have those options. We constantly are cleansing because we're exposed on a, basis. We're traveling. So a lot of homes we've been in that we've traveled to have terrible mold, which then sets you off. Then you harbor those spores again. So it really is just the knowledge, because knowledge is power.
Yeah. Something that I have started doing and I have noticed a huge difference is a ozone generator. Anytime that I'm gone for extended periods of times for like the bedroom or the house stuff, I run one of those and it is absolutely incredible, the difference. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what all it does, but I would assume that it's going to at least kill some of the mold or whatever is in there. But what about respiratory issues? Let's say asthma
Mm-hmm.
or chronic colds or any of that stuff. What are you seeing with either parasites and or mold on that front?
Everybody that's in mold has some sort of a respiratory issue going on, and they just continually keep staying sicker and sicker because your body isn't getting a break. It's in constant fight or flight. That's what mold does. It keeps you in constant fight or flight. You're always on alert because your body doesn't understand why it's colonizing mold. So
Hmm.
it's in a constant state of alert all the time. So I'm seeing a lot of people that have done parasite cleansing with Parify turn around and go, okay, now I need to do the mold cleanse because I'm still feeling off. They do the mold cleanse. It's so tough on the body to do the mold cleanse because it's pushing the spores out of your cells, replacing it with assisting the mitochondria. And it's not always the most comfortable thing. And the mold can convince you don't need to do this anymore. And so it convinces you're kind of nuts, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think we can all relate to that one way or another. So is that something that let's say we go down on vacation and we're
Mhm.
exposed to a moldy Airbnb or whatever, and then that's in our body and we go somewhere else and we just live and it's not in mold. Is that still something that can just stay in us for the long term that we still have to deal with in one way or another?
It can. It can. And mold cleansing takes a really long time. I'm
Mm,
still mold cleansing. I still have active Aspergillus niger in my body, but I don't have symptoms from it, but it's still active in my body. I actually have 11 different molds in my body that I had no idea about because I just basically was collecting spores everywhere I went. And so it lives in your cells to a point where when you go and cleanse that or you're around it, your body's going to alert you. So yeah,
mm.
you can still collect the cells everywhere you go, and it can put you into a flare when you're around it. Jeremy, my husband, we went into an Airbnb and she had put tiki wood down in a shower, like for designer purposes. We walked into the Airbnb and immediately his eyes swelled shut and he became very angry. A lot of people that have mold have anger issues because it's affecting their liver so heavily. So he immediately, I'm talking like minutes. We walked right back out of the Airbnb and we let her know. because we walked into the bathroom. We looked down and I'm like, wait, it's like black. And I said, who puts tiki wood on the floor in a shower? And we lifted it and it was just thick.
Goodness.
And we're like, we're out. We got to go. Like, we cannot stay here. So it took him weeks to get past that situation in his body because it basically was like a party, right? Oh, this mold met this mold and they're partying now. Like
Lord.
parasites.
Okay. Well, this is terrifying and doesn't sound like it's just a super easy solution, but at least we got hope. Let's talk about some of the other, like, maybe lifestyle activities we can take. How about like getting, lots of sunshine, or is there exercise? You'd mentioned lymph a couple times, rebounders, vibration boards, hiking, whatever. What do you think are really important lifestyle activities to participate in?
Well, so far, the ones that I have done that have like just changed the trajectory of my health, which I'm healthy, is the vibration plate, because it just really shakes you up, gets you moving. Nothing can settle. Nothing will attach itself while you're doing it. So that's really a big one. Infrared sauna is a huge one. Sweating is so important. You have to sweat out the toxins. And if you're not sweating, something's going on with you. So that's kind of a root issue that you have to look into if you're not sweating. Lately, I've been doing hyperbaric chamber, which is getting my cells 100% oxygen and allowing them to thrive versus sitting there trying to survive. Mold, parasites, and Lyme do not like 100% oxygen. They kind of pull that and like deprive you of it, making you hypoxic. They say that we're all unalived from lack of oxygen. So the more oxygen that you can get into your body, the better your mitochondria is going to be. That's moving your lymphatic system. It's opening up drainage pathways for you. So those are big ones that I've been doing lately. Making sure that stuff doesn't lay stagnant really is important.
The sauna is a big deal, and this is where I should have really been on it when I took your kit. But it can release toxins too, right? And so like a binder or the charcoal with that, or humic complexes. I like beam minerals. Take that. It was something that I've done, and I've noticed pretty big difference, is a little bit of methylene blue before I get in the sauna with the binders, and that's like big. Yeah. A big thing. So the saunas, I'm a huge fan. And then I've got the power plate vibration board right there. And so it's like just, part of a routine. So what do you look for in evaluating tech? Because there's some downsides, right? Like I'm very much dependent on it, but I think we got to be realistic. How do you evaluate what kind of devices you're going to spend money on or recommend and utilize?
Well, I want to go back to the M Blue because I love M Blue, and I don't talk about it very often because it's super censored in the social media world. It's kind of sad because dye therapy is really amazing. The origin of the dye therapy is pretty cool, but just being able to do methylene blue and open up your mitochondria in such a fast and furious way that it's amazing. When we had mold poisoning, we did a lot of methylene blue. And did you do it like, okay, so the way we did it is we would take the methylene blue, we would wait 20 minutes, and then we would sit in front of red light to activate it even more. Jeremy actually would take it and go stand outside. I would take it and like just sit inside of the red light. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I do both. So like before a podcast, a lot of times I actually take nicotine gum and then the methylene blue, and I will go stand out and make sure I get as much sun exposed on my skin as possible. And there's a noticeable difference. It's because, you said dye therapy. I think we don't talk enough about light, and it very well may be the most fundamental thing about life and biology. I think that there is, Jack Cruz has been on a couple times, and as he is who he is, but he's really opened my eyes to how important the light component is. And I think that's the reason that the methylene blue is working so unbelievably well, is because it's given the body the ability to utilize light in a better way. But yes, exactly. It's before utilize all the full spectrum of the sun, and I have the infrared sauna. It's
Okay. That's why you
sunlight
do
and is
so
the
good,
brand
because
we
you're
have.
like taking it and then going in and you're just absorbing it and
Yes.
pushing. Methylene blue is just pushing it deeper and deeper when you're using that red light. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That's cool, man.
it's super cool. Again, I got to give, Dave Asprey very early on, the putting me down these rabbit trails. But it's a big deal and it matters. I think that I'm always a fan of natural ways first. Like I'd rather be in the sun and
Mm-hmm.
exercising than I would in the sauna when all possible. But having these tools and modalities to get to the next step, right, are they're so important, especially when you're sick and you don't feel like going
Yeah.
outside or don't feel like exercising. So, something we're talking about censored things. I'm perfectly fine with talking about censored things. So one thing that I've been trying to figure out is SV40. Okay. So this is simian virus 40. We're not allowed to talk about this at all, but in talking to a lot of the oncologists, they don't have a solution for it. Right. And it's an oncovirus. This is not, it's not conspiracy. This is laid out perfectly. And so I was curious if there's anything that you've come across with viruses, specifically SP40, but in what you're doing as a ways to mitigate it because as far as I know, with everybody I've talked to,
Mm-hmm.
literally get in the sun as much as you can is the only thing. There's nothing. So
Right.
I would really like to find more, if at all possible.
Yeah. I mean, the vitamin D and just your body being able to flow. And I mean, that's what I did with all of my viruses that I've had, because I've had a few. I had EBV and CMV, like all of these dropped from when I was doing parasite cleansing. They all were like chilling inside of my body. I actually was tested, I don't know, 15 years ago with spinal fluid for Epstein-Barr virus and came back negative. And then all of a sudden I have Epstein-Barr virus 15 years later that really just wreaked havoc. So I have found that usnea was a huge game changer because it goes in and helps remove the viruses out of your body.
Fascinating. Well, what's next for you, Kim? Where can we send everybody? Not that you're not all over the place anyways, but what's next? What are you working on?
So we've started a podcast. We started filming last month for it. We haven't released the name just yet, but we've started it. We're going to show people all of the cool modalities that you can do, like cryo, when it comes to standing in cryo, like the chamber, as well as cold plunging, just kind of showing people like a better way of taking control of your health. I've been doing a lot of NAD. If you haven't done NAD yet, I highly recommend NAD IV therapy. It has completely changed my health. When I added HBOT and NAD therapy into my world in March, my skin got better. My mental health got better. I feel normal again because my mitochondria is operating at a normal rate. But if you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. Because it's not super comfortable for the 4 hours that you have to sit there while getting high amounts of NAD pushed into your body. But I only have to do it once a month. And for 4 hours, I just sit there and like grin and bear it, and then I'm done. So just continuing to keep my health going. And we're going to be starting a new program to help people cleanse so that there's a community. Our website launches. We have a brand new website. It's more of an experience and a lifestyle so that it's not so parasite cleansing, like worms. It's like, this is what we all need to do to take control of our health and have sovereignty over our bodies. Instead of being told what's wrong with us, we can actually do this all ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to highlight something with your company is it's basically made to order, right? And this is what I love. And so like being in Arkansas, I love that, a lot of it's made right here at Jonesboro. I think that's so cool. And so this is what I want to get our highlight is that this isn't just sitting on shelves for years at a time and then shipped out. Y'all are making batches and it's coming as orders come in. Will you talk a little bit about why that's important?
Yeah. So we soak our herbs. We do it all ourselves because we're not having a lab recreate the structure of the herb. We're just using the herbs. So we want to make sure that the highest quality is going out to you guys. And we really took a lot of initiative to find the right way that our ancestors would do it. So when we soak the herbs, we soak them for 5 up to 8 weeks, which then pulls the most medicine out of the herb. And then we do some of our tinctures called double extracting. There's a way to pull out parts of medicine from an herb from alcohol, which is what we use. And then another part of it is a water soluble way. So we want to make sure that we pull all of the medicine out and we don't leave any to waste. We just learned this cool technique and that's how we do it. And then we want to make sure that you bind. So we also make our binder. We don't make the capsule that it's in, but we actually make the binder ourselves. And we don't let it sit on the shelf because we want it to be as fresh as possible, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love what y'all are doing. I appreciate you greatly. You've been a wonderful resource and friend. And so just thank you. Thank you for coming on here again and laying out a lot more information. And will you just tell us where we need to go to get our goodies?
Rogershood.com is our website. And then Mrs. Rogers Hood is my TikTok, and then Mrs. Rogers.hood on Instagram. You can also go to Rogers Hood Apothecaries, Instagram and TikTok, and we answer every comment, every DM. We really want you to have a good experience and not be stressed because that's kind of a weird thing, right? Like parasite cleansing is weird, but we're trying to normalize it and make you realize it's more than just removing parasites. It's giving you your health back.
Absolutely.